you know what was a lot watching the Phillies this weekend?
It was a lot.
They stunk. I mean, holy moly. What a terrible road trip. They go 2-4 to Atlanta and St. Louis. Two teams that came in to the beginning of last week not playing good baseball at all, right? They get, and I think we understood the Atlanta one a little bit. That's a desperate team.
Yeah, and it felt like a playoff game.
Yeah, and we know Atlanta's better than their record, and they'll probably be there at the end. But
not the Cardinals.
The Cardinals are just totally mediocre, probably below that. They don't have good pitching, and they shut the Phillies out twice on Friday. If you wanted to excuse it, Hugh, because they got in at like 4 a.m., they were a little lethargic. Okay. I mean,
they give you that. What would you say? Like, what was a schedule loss?
This Friday was a schedule loss. Yeah, Sunday they had Zach Wheeler on the mound, and they're facing a pitcher that has really not established himself as anything in the big leagues yet, and they shut him out. The last 20 Phillies were retired in a row. They acted like they just wanted to get on the plane and get home. That was a gross effort by the Phillies. 215-592-9494. And look, I understand that we're reacting strongly to early season samples and all that. But I got to tell you, to start off today, I see real reasons to have concern, like real concern about the Phillies. Not that you throw away every expectation, but there's like if there was one issue, I could say, all right, that's not good, but we'll fix that, or that guy will get better. There's like 5 or 6 little things that are adding up to why they're not scoring runs right now and why they're not playing very well. The third baseman is totally lost right now. Alec Boehm is totally lost. This weekend didn't help. Brandon Marsh is 0 for April. I mean, Hugh, today's April 14th. To be 0 for the month is ridiculously bad. Like, it's almost unplayable. They look lethargic out there. They're not getting great pitching right now. Their bullpen, we know, is up and down. The catcher, it looks like, he's had better days. The shortstop's been better than years past, but still, not great. I mean, they're getting production out of Schwarber. They're getting production out of Castellanos. They're getting a little bit out of Harper, but he's getting, walked a lot. Not much there. It just looks like a lethargic baseball team right now that doesn't give me much sense of they're about to turn this around. I have real concern. 215-592-9494. Hugh, where are you on the team as they tried their third different leadoff hitter this week? They dropped Boehm to the 8th spot in the lineup. Seems like Topper's trying new things all the time, and nothing's changing here. They're not hitting much.
Well, I'm not in full panic mode. I like the fact that Topper's trying to be proactive when it comes to all of this stuff. Yeah. I look at it like this. Like you talked about the leaders on the team and, being walked, that you can't control that.
Right.
You can't control that. That's just something you can't control. But I feel like, we've talked so much about the bottom of this order and what those guys aren't doing. And it's been like that for the last couple of weeks. I kind of feel like even though, when you describe the top of the order and the guys, they're okay, I feel like they need to be better, though. This is where when people talk about the money that you're making, this is where, to me, that kind of kicks in. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the guys on this team, the leaders on this team doing a little bit more. If people are struggling around you, sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper to help dig yourself out of the holes that you're in. Not saying that you're playing bad, but if you know that some of your teammates are struggling, and I know a lot of people might not think this is fair, but that's how life goes. It's not fair. You might be asked to do a little bit more. And I feel like that's where this team is right now. The top of that order needs to do a little bit more until the bottom of that order starts to come around just a little bit.
215-592-9494. Unfortunately, it feels to me like an extension of the end of last year. Not so much in how they're losing, but that they're just not a very good team. Like, they're okay. They're good enough, and they're not, a terrible team. But it's not like the first half of last year, there was something special about them. They found ways to win almost every night. And then you got to around June, July last year, and they kind of just were in this weird malaise. And then we hoped when they got to the playoffs, they'd flip the switch. Well, that didn't happen. And that malaise really hasn't gone away.
Malaise.
I mean, I think about the team so far this season. They're 9-6, which is fine.
Not bad.
Record, not bad. But 3 of those games were against the Rockies, and they swept them. The Rockies might be the worst team in baseball. They're 3-12. They're getting. I mean, the Rockies scored 0 runs this entire weekend in their series against San Diego. That team might be the worst in all of baseball. So if you kind of just remove that series and say, okay, well, they got the worst team in baseball early in the season. They're 6-6 in all the other games. Some up, some down. Not great. It reminds me of the second half last year, and they got to get this together. Look, the Boehm thing, we might be at the point where he's just so far in his head that they don't know what to do with him. Marsh looks like he's so overmatched right now. And you're right, Hugh. It's compound. Like, the bottom of the order struggles are compounded because they're not getting a lot out of the top. I mean, Schwarber's been their best player this year, and he's been pretty consistent. I'd say Castellanos probably been their second best offensive player. Bryce has been, by his standards, blah, right? Not great so far.
Yeah.
And Turner's been okay, but other than that home run in Atlanta, there hasn't been much.
He's been better, but this is where this is where you have to do more, man. I mean, and I know, like for a lot of people, like, what are you talking about? They're doing their job. Da, 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 da. I get that, but when you're like the face of the franchise and you're the star, I mean, it might not sound like a fair thing to say, but yeah, there's more asked of you than there is the average guy. You're held to a different standard. And you might not feel it's fair, but that's usually the case. You know, I remember a story where we were in a special teams meeting, and Coach Harbaugh was here at the time, and I remember everybody was talking. I wasn't saying a whole lot, but I was the one that got called out because he was looking for somebody to be accountable for, and if he made me accountable, you know, then that kind of got everybody else in lockstep. And I remember him telling me that. He was like, I had said something, and he yelled and screamed at me. I didn't say anything because I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to reset the room. And sometimes, you know, you might not think it's fair, but that's what's asked of the leadership in your locker room.
Let's hear from one of those leaders. Bryce Harper, after the game yesterday, as the Phillies were shut out, the last 20 Phillies that came to the plate were retired in order yesterday. What a joke that was. Let's hear from Harper after the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to struggle, right? But obviously, it's the big leagues, so you got to try to pull out of it and understand you're going to go through ups and downs through the season, but try to stay as even keel as you can. And always remember, it's not about the name on the back; it's about the one on the front. You know, trying to win series, and no matter what you're doing or something or anything like that, you got to keep rolling. You know, I don't want to be hitting 250 right now, you know, but obviously, I want to win every day, and you know, you just got to have that mindset coming in each day and try to win ball games.
What did you make of that quote, Hugh? Because he was asked about what it's like to struggle and how do you come. And he talked about the name on the front, Phillies, not the name on the back. And at first I heard it and I was wondering if he was just like talking about himself, or was he talking about others that seem to be wearing their struggles? Like, hey, it's not about you, man. It's about the team. I don't know what he meant by that, but it seemed oddly open-ended. A little cryptic, yeah.
I didn't know how to interpret that because it feels like you were trying to be deeper than the moment really called for. And I don't, you know, I like Bryce. I don't understand that though. I mean, because here's the thing, as a leader that I feel, he might not feel the same way. You can't exclude yourself when the team is struggling. Not saying that he did that, Bryce. If you listen, not if you're listening, not saying that you did that, but what you said leads to that interpretation. When you say things like that, you know, when the team is struggling and you talk about the name on the front and, you know, it's not the name on the back, you lead people to believe that you feel like, hey, I'm doing my job. And that might not, I'm not saying that that's the case, but you open yourself up for that interpretation.
Well, you do. 215-592-9494. Part of the reason I am concerned, I think these concerns are real, is it feels like they're concerned. In other years, when they'd struggle early in seasons, they'd always say, we'll be fine, and Topper would, and that would bother people. But ultimately, he was normally right. Like the Phillies won 89, 90, 95 games. Like they've had a level of play the last 3 years under Topper. And every time they struggle, Topper's like, no worries. It feels to me like Topper's concerned. He's changed the lineup a lot in 2 weeks.
I think when you, and I've said this when the season started, when you go into a season and you didn't change a whole lot, then you have to start doing the little intricate stuff, like the little nuanced stuff.
Yeah. Like the lineup.
Like the lineup.
3 different leadoff hitters in 2 weeks.
And that's the thing, because you don't have the luxury now of letting it play out. So you have to kind of tweak the lineup a little bit.
I get that, and I don't think in theory it's a bad idea. But I wonder what the players are thinking. We have this very steady manager who never panics or never shows any sort of like, hey, we got to change things up. And in 2 weeks, he's changed a lot. Like I wonder if it's like a bad cycle, right? Like they struggle. He's not as relaxed as he used to be. He changes it. They get more concerned, and like it's like a weird circle that's going on.
I look at it like this: if I feel like the manager is being weird, in my opinion, then I have to do everything in my power to help him feel better. That means play better.
Yeah.
That means be accountable. That means probably go above and beyond my station and do a little bit more. I think that most of the guys have done that, or they're trying to do that. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just unfortunate. Like when you look at the pitching that the Cardinals had, it's not great. They ain't had no great pitchers. You should at least came out this series 3-3. You should have came out this weekend, I should say, from this trip in Atlanta and this against the Cardinals, you should at least been 3-3.
I agree. And look, Saturday, that was a nice win, but they got 5 double plays on Saturday. The Cardinals hit the ball a little bit to the left or the right. They might have got swept out there. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down on the Phillies? Is it too early to have real concern about where this team is? I don't think it is. There's some trouble in signs here. It's not just one. If it was just Bohm, I'd say, all right, whatever. We'll get a new third baseman. If it was just the bullpen, I'd say, all right, we'll fix the bullpen. There's like 5 or 6 little things. They're starting to add up here, and it's why they're not playing great baseball. Kyle, where do you come down on a Monday after the Phillies get shut out twice this weekend?
Yeah, so as good as I felt
after they came off that Dodgers series, it's about as bad as I feel right now. Like, they brought me right back down to earth. They've not looked good for about a week now, and I guess that's at this point now half the season so far. They've looked good for a half and bad for another, like objectively bad for another. 2 donuts against the Cardinals is unacceptable. They made Liberatore look like 2024 Cal Quantrill.
Yeah, y'all will never let me lay that one down.
I mean, but like, so we talked about how they look different, and now
it feels like that the difference is just different issues with the team. Like, if they're not doing the whole, like, chasing, like, literally everything off the plate like they were last year. It's just the bottom of the order stinks. And the guys who are getting paid big money, besides Kyle Schwarber and Castellanos, they don't look like they should be getting paid that money the way they're hitting the plate right now. Even the starting pitching has not looked very good. Zach Wheeler's not looked as dominant as he has for the last 2 years. And the bullpen looks like it stinks, or at the very least is shaky. So there's definitely some concerns, and I think there's 2 ways to look at the Topper thing. I like the fact, and I still like the fact that he's being proactive with some of the moves he's making in the lineup. He's getting out ahead of things. I think he's pulling levers to ensure that they win as many games as possible early in the season. But the other way to look at that is that he's making those moves because he has to. Like, he shouldn't. We should be a good enough team to where the manager doesn't feel like he's got to be forced to make those decisions like every series or every game and do those kind of things. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword there. I like that he's doing it, but it definitely just, I think, paints a picture of a bigger issue with the team. So it's hard to not sort of start feeling like you should have some concerns with this team right now.
I agree. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down? Is it too early to have real concerns with the Phillies? Now, this week, tonight, certain tonight, the Giants are in and the Marlins are in this week, right? When the schedule first came out, this felt like a soft week. It felt like a week you should win some games at home against the Giants team that has been good. Yeah, has been good for years, and a Marlins team that's always bad. Well, the Giants look like one of baseball's surprises, and the Marlins are 500. I think they're over 500 early in the season. They don't look as terrible. So I still think the Phillies should win this week. They should have more wins than losses. But it's not like they're coming home against as soft as teams as it looked like before the season. So they better wake up. Otherwise, I think those concerns are just going to grow. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down on the Phillies shutout twice this weekend? Is it too early to have real concerns? I don't think so. There's a lot going. Again, if it was 1 or 2 things, I'd say, all right, they'll fix those 1 or 2 things. Not easy to fix 6 or 7 problems in a season, and they're popping up here left and right.